Hello and welcome to Binge of the Week. I'm Sonia, aka Binge of the Week. This week's episode, The Pit of Despair, Season 1. If you're new to this, the titles are basically purely for self-amusement. They are usually a reference. That's a Princess Bride reference. I hope everyone got that, but maybe not at all. I did consider a different title. I saw someone call them Depressed Doctors. And I did laugh at that. I'm still laughing at that. But The Pit of Despair is much more my speed. I don't know if I need to do an intro. I'm sure some people didn't listen to other episodes of this because they're just into the pit. So I am a production dork. I worked in the industry in the studio side for a decade. I just love TV and movies and am a crazy binge watcher. I watch a lot of stuff and I watch them on repeat a lot of the time. I'm a serial rewatcher, and I did a podcast years ago with a co-host about a TV show, episode by episode, Merlin, and I'm back now doing this. I gotta say, I wanted to get back to podcasting about TV and movies for a while, but last year when I saw The Pit, that's really what got the wheels going again. It was a show that hit me so hard with how I loved it. I watched it a ton of times last year, and I just did a rewatch for this episode of the podcast, and it's a great TV show, and I think it caught me by surprise because I'm not into medical TV shows. I do remember that I watched ER, and I can't be sure that I watched all of it because it was a very, very long time ago. I retained almost zero of that show in my brain. The only thing I remember from ER is the 2 helicopter scenes, because who could forget that? Which I think worked out for me because I got the reference in The Pit. At least I think Robbie saying stay at the pilot's 12 o'clock was a reference to ER. It has to be, I think. But yeah, doing 2 episodes in The Pit, one for each season, I struggled a lot with how to break this up because it feels like too much to do episode by episode, which I think, enjoy, because then when I do episode by episode, I can break down a lot of like the production decisions and sets and props and, little beats. But it's a lot. It would be 30 episodes. I did actually consider breaking it up into 5-episode chunks because they're 15-episode seasons. But we went with 2. We just went with entire seasons. And I will try to cover what I think is the most important stuff about season 1 for me. I don't know. I'm sure there's like a million podcasts about The Pit already because it is, in my view, exceptional. So it makes me think of what makes TV exceptional now. This definitely lands in the prestige HBO space. So quality-wise, I think we expect a lot, but this show has just so much craft. I think that's what really makes it. It is these consummate professionals in the industry for a very long time, doing what they do best, knowing what they know, being very confident about what they're making. And I think it comes through on several levels of the show. I know that a lot of the talk around this show, especially during season 1, was how realistic it is to the experience of healthcare workers and the struggles of healthcare. And I think that became a lot of the marketing around it and a lot of the conversation around it, which I think is great. I value that about this show. It's an important component of the show and definitely part of what makes it special. But I also love that, for me, even though that's true, I think storytelling still wins on this show. There are times where I think it's almost to its detriment that it's so realistic because some people will talk about certain nitpicks with it in a way that makes me think, yeah, it's not a documentary. it's still a TV show. We're still telling a story. So there are times where I feel like it chooses to represent the spirit of the reality rather than like word for word what would happen in a hospital. You know, I definitely went down the rabbit hole when I first watched this show of watching doctors react to it on YouTube. And of course, yeah, like, oh, the ER would never handle that case. Like that kid's eye, they would have gone to ophthalmology. There's no way Robbie's doing this procedure or letting McKay do this procedure. There's no way they have that tool in the ER. No one's using that. Sure, but it's representative of all these cases. I haven't looked into how the writer's room works exactly, but I would hazard an educated guess that they have been compiling stories that are true from what they've heard out there in the medical world, and then they kind of smush them into a day, uh, which was a brilliant creative decision to do this whole, we're spanning one day at a time. But again, the storytelling wins. Yes, most ERs wouldn't see all this stuff happen in one day. No one would have this day, but like Robbie is having his worst day ever. Here we go. So that's what I mean by the storytelling wins. The point is to get the idea across, more importantly than exactly the reality of what it's like to work there every day. And yet they prioritize that, I think, so highly still that you do get a lot of comments about how, like, yeah, this is exactly what it's like, which is awesome. And you do want it to be realistic. It has such excellent world building, which is a word that I think, for me at least, usually really comes up about sci-fi and fantasy, and not so much like a medical procedural show. Some of the masterful way the world building is applied is just the production stuff, where you're really creating this space where they've built something that feels like a real hospital, and then the scenes play out that way, where the background work on this show is basically choreography. These actors must have actually way less downtime than they're used to having on other shows because they're always having to be not just their characters, but then do their characters in the background of other people's scenes, because you've got the real time aspect playing out, and the way that the scenes cut together, you've got the thing happening in the background or the patients in the background from another story. So it's so stacked, and I honestly can't imagine running continuity on this show. The script supervisor must be amazing. I I've rewatched so many times, and maybe there isn't that much pressure because who could even clock whether they're right or wrong? But there are definitely decisions being made about, like, oh, that's going to go on in the background while this is going on in the foreground, and then we're going to cut to the background scene. So well done. And that, plus other decisions I have heard about, like their decisions around lack of music. It's really a subtle and unsubtle show to me. And what I mean by that is it's subtle and in a way that is, it's a phones down show where you really do have to pay attention. You can't just kind of almost clock it. I do wonder sometimes, like, there are things people missed. I posted recently about, I just wanted to make sure that everyone understood that Robbie is Abbott's boss, uh, which I think makes their dynamic even better when you realize that. And I got a lot of pushback of, no, he's not. And I was laughing because he definitely is. He's in charge of the ED. That puts him above Abbott. That kind of detail, I just like wonder if it's missed because people don't understand work hierarchies. I don't really understand hospital administration, but I understand a good office hierarchy. But I do feel like if you're not clocking everything that's happening, maybe you're not noticing that kind of thing, where like the reasons Gloria goes to him are because he's in charge. Gloria's not going to Jack. And Jack Abbott doesn't, in my view as a character, want anything to do with that anyway. But it's also kind of, I said it's subtle and unsubtle. It's unsubtle, not in the sense of it doesn't hit you over the head with anything, but it is not a mystery show. It is not a Lost. We are not trying to figure stuff out. There's no twist coming. I don't think it plays pretty straight. Like it's down the line. Yeah, in the beginning, there are definitely, like, I'll get into in a bit, some not misdirects, but places for the story to go, but it's never trying to trick you. It's always there. So it's unsubtle in that way. And it's not, that is complimentary in the sense of it's not that kind of show. No one needs to be trying to suss out some kind of thing that's coming. We can all kind of guess what's coming because it's pretty blatantly just a day in the life of this place and these people. And it's not trying to have a mystery solved. And that is clever writing. All of it is clever writing, even the mechanism of, oh, the student's first day. Great. Now we can explain things to the students, aka the audience. And then we can say things that seem really obvious because we have to tell them stuff. So they bring you into this world with the students. It's someone's first day. So you can get brought in and have everything explained to you without having that weird thing that happens on TV where they're explaining something to someone that would obviously already know it. I hate that kind of writing. And I'm really appreciative that these people, again, craft. They're so expert that they're like, how do we get around that? And how do we not create that weirdness? Speaking of the writing, it's not just world building. We've got some of the best pacing I've ever experienced, and pacing including emotional modulation. We are just always up and down on the humor, the tragedy, the boring, like someone's doing a chart, someone's making a joke, someone is, some child has died. It is so well done and so well structured that I see a lot of people feel like every time an episode ends, they're shocked because they're so absorbed in the world. But it's not because it's drama every minute of every second of every moment of the show is drilling drama into you. There are moments where someone's doing a chart and they're kind of like just having a chat. And they are so clever at doing these comedic cuts in season 1 are so funny to me. I adore them. One example is McKay is giving the numbing shot to the kid with the messed up baseball eye. And you hear ouch as soon as she sticks him. And it cuts to Whitaker saying ouch to somebody else. So you get these almost sound bridge edit gags where you're expecting the reaction from the person in the scene you're in, but you're actually getting like a funny version of that reaction in a cut to someone else. And it happens several times over the seasons. It's such a like levity moment that I enjoy them way too much. I also love something that's tension building but not upsetting. Like Robbie needs to use the bathroom. Robbie has to pee is, to me, one of my favorite things of season 1 because it is such a clever and perfectly executed way to build tension, but not tension of like, oh my God, is someone gonna die? This man just needs to use a bathroom, and they don't harp on about it, but it just comes back naturally after an episode changes into a new episode. So you kind of forget about it. Even he forgets about it and then realizes he's in a bathroom and can use a bathroom. And it also just kind of brings you into Robbie being the character you're with on a level that you can actually relate to him. I can't relate to having to save some kid's life or to tell somebody their child died, but I can relate to needing a bathroom and not getting time to go to a bathroom. And I just appreciate this little storyline for building a funny tension that I can relate to with a character. And all of this works together in every moment to kind of just bring us up and down and enjoy the ride of the emotions of the show. And it never feels like I'm trudging through it. Famously, I feel that way about Game of Thrones. I know a lot of people like it. My biggest criticism of Game of Thrones has always been that I felt like it always wanted me to be emotionally at a 10. Because it's always it's always bad news. It's always a disaster. It's always the end of the world. And I can't do that. Like, I can, but then there's nowhere to go, and that bores me. I want to be up and down. I want to experience fluctuation and like emotional modulation again. To me, it's perfection in this show. And not only that, but they did kind of real time. Like, they didn't commit to real time, second by second, like we're doing an hour equals an hour. But 1 hour of TV equals roughly an hour of the shift, and the different things that happen during that hour is so clever. I've got to admit, I've never seen 24, so I don't know if they do minute by minute real time. But there was a trend, I think I would say in 2025, the year that Pitt came out, of there was that show Adolescence, and there was the studio. There was a lot of oneers. And I think oneers are as amazing as everybody else thinks they are. I think I'm probably in the minority. I don't love them because I love them in moderation. But what happens when you decide that an entire show or an entire episode or like half an episode of this really long sequence is a oneer, that can be great and amazing. I think many times when you overcommit to a oneer, maybe, it drains your ability to place the storytelling first, which, as I said, is really important to me. So you have to kind of like build story beats to fit the oneer rather than, is the oneer adding to the story beats we're creating, or is it just this really cool technical exercise that we can do? I think that's the vibe that happens for me personally with oneer. Sometimes it's like, look at this thing that I can do. And I'm like, that's awesome. But I don't know, would you have told the story a little bit better if you weren't locked into this cool technique? Sometimes I think yes. Sometimes the oneer works to just perfect effect. I think that Adolescence episode where it's just him and I want to say a therapist in the jail. It was like watching, a theater production of two people talking. Amazing for one conversation in one room. I loved it. But there are just other times where I question whether it's really kind of harming the storytelling by choosing to be cool instead. And I'm really glad this show does not do oneers and just does awesome background choreo, which is just like the crossovers. Again, amazing. And then I left this for the latter part. It's last but not least, almost most important, the characters. Now, in past podcasts, I've said, for me, probably the things that hook me are amazing cinematography and characters that I can really, really root for and really get behind. Or at least, I always say I need at least one character that I can really get behind, which is how we got to doing the podcast for Animal Kingdom last time, because Pope was that character that I could really get behind. And this being like a big ensemble cast is amazing because it gave me a lot of characters to root for. I will say I'm partial to some of them, obviously more than others. They're all great characters. Again, I think the strength of the show is they're all distinct. They work as a cohesive structure of characters, and that the writers and creators, producers know these characters so well. It's so clear who each of these people are that's why it works. Because, again, if you haven't heard my last podcast, I will reiterate that root for doesn't mean like you have to be good. Okay? Like, I'll root for the murderer character if it's a character to root for. Rooting for someone is usually, for me, based in how well their motivations and their character is written out so that I can get behind what they're trying to achieve. So it has nothing to do with being good or bad. The brilliance of the characters of the Pit is that they're all layered and flawed, and not just flawed in that way that some writers will just like, and I'm going to give this character this flaw attached to them. The characters of the Pit have a core personality trait, and we see how it plays out in positive ways and negative ways. And what does that do to them? How does it affect their work and their relationships? So it's really like they're like a person, like a real person who has this way of being, and they lean into it. And sometimes it does them good and sometimes it does them harm. So you've got all of these awesome characters kind of interacting with each other. The world feels really lived in, and it makes something like a season 1 where, again, it's one day, you're getting a lot of character intros really fast. It makes me think of this movie I love, Gosford Park. I remember the first time I got the DVD, I rewatched the first 20 minutes so many times because there was just so many character intros and I was so confused as to who people were. But shows, they are just introducing so many characters and the intros are so strong. Again, I think what I was saying earlier about it being unsubtle, on rewatch, everything is there. These people, they're there from the first minute of the show. They are who they are. And it's so much clearer when you rewatch. I always tell people when I'm suggesting this show is watch it and then rewatch it. Because on rewatch, a Langdon to me is so obvious from the first second he gets on to the screen. But the first time I watched it, it wasn't as obvious. I was just like, oh, this guy is like really high energy. And then that read really differently to me after I knew everything that I knew. It's all there. It's not a mystery. Now, it unfolds. It's not like there aren't places it goes, because that would be boring as well. Like, you do have to reveal things and build the story. So I'm amused rewatching and watching that first scene between Robbie and Abbott on the rooftop, where on first watch you could think, oh my God, this Jack Abbott guy is a mess. He's thinking about jumping off a roof. And here's Robbie. Everyone's kind of talking about how he's having a rough day, but he seems to have it really together, and he's helping this guy out, and he's getting him off the roof and calming the whole situation down. So you get this like really competent Robbie at first glance and this really messed up Abbott at first glance. And on rewatch, it's so different to me. I don't think Abbott is ever going to jump or is even thinking of jumping. I think he goes up there and flirts with the idea of something like that to confront his own feelings about everything that's happened and how upset he is about the shift that he's just had, which is very different than how I feel about Robbie being on that rooftop later. But none of this is a twist or a misdirect. It's like you understand it more later, and it lets you kind of meet a more competent version of Robbie in the emotional space of where he's at, to then find out like, oh, maybe he's not totally okay by the end of that episode, and the layered reveal of how deep his mental health issues really are episode by episode. But it gives us somewhere to go with the characters. Like, oh, we get to know more. We get to understand more what that behavior is, what that reaction is. So they're all truthful to who they are. It's just built to have a little bit of like oh, I think I get this character. And then the more you go, you're like, oh, now I get that on a different level and I understand it differently. But it is why I love rewatching this, because then once you already know, you can kind of watch it for different reasons. And I can't get into all the characters, okay? There's a swath of just great characters in this. I have my favorites. For me, okay, Robbie, he's the dude. Like, he's the main guy. He's a mess. There are definitely criticisms you can have of him, and the other characters do have criticisms. One of my favorite scenes with Robbie and McKay is her just telling him off and telling him he has to live with her decision because he didn't do what he was supposed to when it came to the incel kid and the elimination list of girls. And Robbie is so wrong in that take. And she puts him in his place, and I love that. So I root for him. He's definitely, for me, the protagonist, the main character. Obviously, it's built that way, but I react in the way that I'm in Robbie's corner. As I've said before, if I root for a character, I'm ride or die. I'm all in. And it gets to the point where, like, I'm so loyal to that character that if you cross them, even if I like McKay telling him off because she's not really wrong, she's right to do it. If you cross him in a wrong way, like the way Langdon talks to him in the last episode of this season, you are kind of dead to me as a character. Like, you just are persona non grata. I will always hate the characters that do bad things to the characters that I love. There's a lot of having to earn back. I think a Langdon will have to earn back more with me than he will even with Robbie in the future of this show. And I'm going to act like I haven't seen season 2. I've seen it once. But I'm only talking season 1 today, which, like, speaking of Langdon, okay, I'm not only going to talk about my favorite characters. Langdon is like the character that I love to hate. I know a lot of people like Langdon. It's very difficult for me. I have talked a bunch about how I feel the whole Langdon Santos thing is a little bit of a litmus test for how we have some internalized misogyny, all of us. I am not calling you a misogynist if you don't like Santos and you do like Langdon. Everyone's free to like whoever they like. But there was a vibe of defending him and demonizing her that really struck me as societal issue that people have, because I just witnessed some defending behaviors of this guy who is very charming and very attractive and very, good at his job in a way. I could debate whether you're good at your job if you're doing benzos while you're administering medical care and stealing meds from your patients, but that's what I mean. There were people defending that kind of decision making, which, look, I'm not demonizing addiction. That's not why I dislike Langdon. I dislike him because he's still responsible for the things he chooses to say and do to people, and how he treats Santos is so much worse than how Santos treats, Javati. I've seen a lot of people call her a bully because she calls people names. And I'm like, Langdon berated her in front of everybody because he feels intimidated by her and is worried that she's got notice of what he's doing. And he also gaslights her and gives her wrong medical tutelage over a patient. Like, they're literally standing over a patient and he's telling her she's wrong because she doesn't know anything, when the truth is that she's right and he messed with the meds. So he's actually giving wrong instruction and gaslighting a resident, which is insane. And I don't know if people just didn't notice that. I don't know. Like, I just felt really weird about people defending these kinds of moments. And then the way he talks to Robbie, to me, is the nail in the coffin for how I feel about this character, because obviously he's in self-defense mode and you do terrible things when you're in that space. It's very realistic. Like, I'm not judging the writing, but the way people defend him, and I'm like, he took Robbie having a panic attack and used it against him when, I don't know, X amount of hours ago, he's like, we're best friends, aren't we? Like, some kind of friend you are. Now, again, I understand he's lashing out, but, like, I don't like it. I got I got really negative reactions because I said I didn't like Jake because of how he talked to Robbie. Again, I will always just be mad at people who hurt my characters. Look, yeah, a teenager would have a terrible reaction to what happened to Jake. I just think, you don't have to be terrible. And being terrible to Robbie, to me, is a good way to lose me. And I do like Santos, okay? I do think that there's also an argument to be made that there are male characters written like Santos that people love, but people like it less when it's a woman. Again, you're free to dislike her and love him. I just want people to be honest about like the objective things these characters have done on screen in the story and then use that as the metric. Like, hey, he's a total ass and I still like him a lot. He's my favorite. That's totally, I love that. Love that for you if that's your take. Hey, she's like, just as abrasive as a Dr. House and I don't like her, but I like him. Cool. But she's also like a really nice person. Let's acknowledge, like, she can call Whittaker names, but she steps up when she needs to. And I'm not, by the way, ignoring she's abrasive. She's way too into like wanting to do medical procedures instead of really wondering whether they're necessary because she's like overly ambitious and wants to like do all the cool stuff. She also cares about the kid who tries to kill himself. She also cares about Whittaker. And at the end of the day, that's what's beautiful about these characters is that they are layered. Like, I don't think Langdon is all bad, and I don't think Santos is all good. That's not the point. I just think that they deserve equal judgment on how badly they actually act. Like, it made me really dislike Garcia that when she finds out that Langdon stole meds, she says that Santos is trouble. I would say Langdon is trouble. And I think Garcia's kind of the audience surrogate. That was a lot of the reaction. I can't believe she outed him. It's like, well, she should. He's totally wrong, which is why Robbie does what he does. And I'm kind of embarrassed for everybody that Santos took 3 hours to figure it out. And everyone's like just been not noticing it for months. Poor Robbie just kind of probably feels stupid. Anyway, enough about that. It's a very passionate topic for me. I have to mention, I know I said I'm all in on Robbie, and I am. I'm going to defend Robbie a lot. Not when he's wrong, but he's my guy. He's the guy. But the truth is my favorite is Mel. Mel is my favorite character. Mel is amazing. I adore this character in every way. I want to simultaneously shrink her down and put her in my pocket or just be best friends with her. But I would also like her to be my doctor because she's a great doctor. She's just everything. Her energy, the neurodivergence. And I think it goes without saying, like, I think everyone on this cast is doing so well. All the regulars, everyone's playing their characters perfectly. She's doing such an incredible job. Yeah, I just love Mel. And I also love Whittaker. It's easy to love. They're like the two innocents. And I would say Javati's in that space too. I just think Mel and Whittaker for me are obviously the more fun characters. Javati's playing the specific role of this child genius being put upon by her mother. But yeah, Mel and Whittaker are amazing. You can root for them. It's easy access characters. I love his farm boy attitude. Again, it's like just such an interesting mix of everything they decided to put in these people to get all different kinds of people, but all in the same profession. And it cannot go without saying Dr. Jack Abbott. I feel like he's a crowd favorite for a reason. And of course, because this character is written in a very specific way, I am actually going to get into it more next episode because I have much to say on this whole night shift. People want a spin-off. People want more of it. There was definitely more of it. Again, we won't talk season 2, but I do love the night shift crew, all of them. They're great. Such good beats, such good side characters. And Dr. Jack Abbott, we open the emotional core of the show with him and Robbie. I feel like it closes with that as well. They're kind of like brothers in arms. Again, even though one of them is the other one's boss. But it was funny to me the way that Sean Hattasey was playing this character on Animal Kingdom where a lot of the reaction to him was, I can fix him. And I think Jack Abbott is the other side of that coin where it's like, he can fix me. The way he shows up after episode one, it's just this relief of, oh, this person is here to relieve my anxiety. He's here to help. He will fix things. Robbie looks to him as I don't know. I don't know if it's like an aide de camp kind of role, but it's just like, oh, you're here. It's going to be okay. That's how we feel because that's how Robbie feels. And that's how Jack behaves. He's always got it handled. Once the mass casualty starts, in chaos at least, Dr. Jack Abbott is the person you want around. He's beyond steady. He is the rock. So, big points to that character. I really did want to rank the characters. I did get to ranking the doctors because it's a lot of people, and I didn't know where to cut it off. And ranking them was kind of, I think I hit a 50-50 mark of objective and subjective in this ranking. I do try to do rankings objectively. There's 13 of them. Langdon came in last. No surprise there, guys. I don't like him. And again, I'm sorry if you do. I think it's a very well-written character, a very well-played character. He makes sense. I have empathy for his struggles, but I also want to kind of punch him in the face. Garcia came in next because I don't like brilliant jerks, and she gives that vibe. A lot of people won't get this. Next on the list is Dr. Mohan. There is nothing wrong with her. She's lovely. I know Dr. Abbott has a thing for her. It's just not my character. Okay, after Mohan, I'm giving Dr. Collins number 10. She's great and everything. I just, cool. I think her storyline about having a miscarriage at work and just going on with your day is really important because that's a real thing that happens to many women in the real world. And I think she did a great job. But I don't know. I don't have any attachment. Javati's next. Largely, yes, I'm interested in her storyline. I like her thing with Mateo. I think it's really cute. But I didn't have any extraordinary feelings about it. 7 and 8 are a tie. Sean and Ellis. I adore them. It's just a little high for characters that are basically comic relief. They're not even regular cast, but the comic relief is so important in this show for me. It's part of that pacing, emotional stuff that I really appreciate these two characters. In 6th place is Santos. I do like this character. I like how she's written. I love that entire threat she did to the molesty dad. I feel like some people did miss the fact that that actor's reaction to what she was saying was indeed an admittance that she was correct. And she was, you know what? Good for her. I'm gonna die on that hill. Good for her. 5th place is McKay. Good doctor. Interesting storyline. Whitaker comes in 4th. Adorable. If I were to include Dana, I would put her in here, but I'm not including her because she's not a doctor, but she gets an honorable mention. 2nd and 3rd place is a tie for me again, for Mel and Abbott. I have to give number 1 to Robbie. Again, this is not a list of my favorites. I'm ranking them. I'm trying to be objective because I would put Mel at the top of the list if this was just a list of my favorites. And I did do one other thing. I did an alignment chart. This is going to be for an alignment chart might be something that only people who play D&D know about. I think other people do. It's a pop culture thing now to put people in alignment charts where you have a chart of lawful, neutral, chaotic behavior. So lawful, following rules, neutral, half and half, chaotic, not following rules. And also the other axis of this chart is good, neutral, evil, where you're either good, you're halfway, or you're evil. And I did really try. It's 9 squares. I don't know if it's good to talk about this on a podcast because you'd have to really see it. I will actually post this on Threads. But what was funny is I couldn't find lawful evil in this show, to be honest, because chaotic evil was Langdon. Neutral evil was Garcia. Chaotic neutral was Shannon Ellis for me. True neutral, Santos. Lawful neutral, Collins. Chaotic good was Abbott and McKay. Neutral good, Robbie and Dana. And lawful good was Javati, Mel, Whitaker, and Moan. I think, I'm not that far off. Y'all can tell me I'm crazy. It's a lot of the characters are good because they are good people trying to do good things, like they're doctors, you know. But yeah, you can at me and tell me I'm wrong. That's totally cool about any of it. So that's me wrapping up season 1. Season 2 coming next week. It will be only my second watch, which will be crazy because I've seen season 1 so many times. So I'm curious to see what I pick up on the second watch of season 2. And I already have plans to talk about the night shift, whether there should be a spinoff or not, and the merits and risks of doing something like that, the creator voices of this show, and I also want to touch upon how this show treats its audience as smart and what that does. Anyway, if you made it all the way to the end, thanks for listening. Stay cool.